Happiness is the successful state of life. Happiness is a state of non-contradictory joy, a joy without penalty or guilt, the joy of using your mind's fullest power, the joy of achieving values. Happiness is possible to a rational man who desires rational goals, who seeks rational values, and finds his joy in rational actions. Now consider this from Ayn Rand, from the Objectivist Ethics. Quote, "The maintenance of life and the pursuit of happiness are not two separate issues. To hold one's own life as one's ultimate value and one's happiness as one's highest purpose are two aspects of the same achievement. When one experiences the kind of pure happiness that is an end in itself, the kind that makes one think, this is worth living for, what one is greeting and affirming in emotional terms is the metaphysical fact that life is an end in itself."
Mark, the best book you read this month and the main takeaways.
So I would say it's The Tyranny of Need by Peter Schwartz. I think this should have wider circulation. It is a complete philosophical takedown of the ethics of altruism for all those out there who think altruism is just about being kind to your neighbor, being generous to your neighbor. This shows you exactly why that is not the case. It's not just the dark side of altruism, it's altruism as it is and as it is actually practiced in the real world. You read this, it'll give you intellectual ammunition against the promoters of altruism.
One of my first jobs was I wanted to be a baker. So I wanted to get up at the crack of dawn and bake bread, basically. And I did it for a few years. They decided I was better in front of the counter than behind the counter. It's a long story, but one of the books that was big at the time was this book called Boulangerie. And it's basically this very beautifully written history of the whole Paris French bakery tradition from like the early days up in the 50s and 60s, and profiles a lot of the famous bakers and their methods. I mean, of course, all the photography is just gorgeous. And, you know, one quote I'll read is, quote, "A long stick with a crust so sharp it could cut the roof of your mouth, and a crumb so light that it hardly exists. The baguette is the resolution of desires, the perfect balance of crumb and crust, of sweet and salty. It contains only wheat and water, yet it took 1,000 years to bake. In 3 hours, it's gone, either eaten or too hard and too dry to be worth eating. It always leaves you satisfied, but never stuffed, and eager to eat another as soon as hunger returns."
Okay, my turn. The book Atomic Habits. So this is one of the books by James Clear. One of the books that if you're into self-development, you hear it all the time. I read it, and here are my main takeaways. First, I would recommend it. There's a reason there's a hype around it, and it has some interesting takeaways. So the main takeaway is that the book makes is that the quality of your life has to do with the quality of your habits. So you have good habits, you have good life. If your habit sucks, your life is not going to be really good. And it also says that you don't rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of your habits.
In my skimming, this is a perfect book for skimming. It's Addison's Encyclopedia of, it's a handy encyclopedia of general information and a universal atlas. It says it's worth its weight in gold. I didn't weigh it, which I figured out was probably a mistake. I don't know how much it's worth. This version was published in 1911. I don't know when it actually, came out originally. This thing is really fun, and it's written by Thomas Edison, who is awesome. It's got advice about just about everything.
They're pretty anti-gay, and you're hearing increasingly on the right that, oh, look at what we're getting now for letting gays marry. They're saying, look, maybe we should, roll it back a little bit on the gay acceptance, because look what it's brought us. They're saying, which to me is akin to saying, oh, look at Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. We never should have, done away with Jim Crow laws. Like that to me is that's the compare. It's like to say that you should not have gotten rid of actual hatred and racism at an institutional level because X is happening now is to me not the right side. of an issue. So
I agree. No, look, you articulated it beautifully. They think the culture wars are more important than force. So like the left, they are ends justify the means types of people. And that is almost, I would say entirely never just. It is never good. This problem could be solved quite easily by privatization. Look, when the public, when such a thing, a formidable thing as education is in the public square, everybody is going to try to assert their power to dominate, to be the dominant voice in that area, and so everybody's going to be fighting each other to be the dominant voice. Whether or not it is appropriate to mention homosexuality to children at a certain age is a side issue. It may be true, it may be false, I don't know, but privatize schools and let each parent make that decision for themselves and purchase the type of education they want for their children. And I think the market, letting people decide for themselves, is the way to do that. Not this tit for tat attempt to dominate the rival party and to win the culture war through the passage of legislation.